without further ado, Mike O'Neill, owner of B&K Electric. Thanks for being on the line with us.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amelia.
Hey, you're welcome.
Excuse my voice. I have a real bad cold, so excuse my voice.
You work too much.
Outdoors in the winter.
Yeah.
So Mike.
But that's a great point. The inspections.
Absolutely. So Mike, I heard this term, and it's funny because my father was an electrician in IBEW for like 43 years, and I suddenly heard this term a couple of years ago from a client called knob and tube wiring, and she says, OMG, the insurance is going up to like $5,000 a year. This is a 3-unit house in Pawtucket, and how do I get rid of it? And we can't afford it. We do not have the money to remove it. The insurance it's going up. Our escrow is going up. Now our mortgage payment is going up. What is it that we're supposed to do? And then when I ended up being a real estate investor, I found out about knob and tube and how the insurance company feels about it. So tell us what it is. When did this thing start, and how do we get rid of it? Why is it bad?
Well, knob and tubing originated when houses or buildings first got wired back in the early 1900s. And then it continued on until the late 30s or 40s, 1930s or 40s.
So it's prehistoric technology, right?
That's right. And then the tricky thing about knob and tubing is just because it doesn't have a ground, there are also the next grade of wires that came out after knob and tubing, which was BX cable with the metal jacket, and then the 2-conductor cloth cable with no. So when we go out and test it, it's tough to say that that's definitely knob and tube for sure.
Okay.
So it's really tough. So what we do is we offer a test. We go out and do a diagnostic check for $399 and for a single-family home, and that's to put a value on how much there is there. And we put it on as a percentage.
Okay,
so you have to say 50%.
So if you have a home built before 1930, these are the homes that we need to be concerned that would have knob and tube in it. Unless there was a permit pulled at some point and all of the electrical was replaced and upgraded, we should assume that a home prior to 1930 most likely has knob and tube wiring, correct?
I would even go up to 1940.
Okay, sure.
Even
Yeah,
1950.
still using the old stuff because it works.
Yeah.
So now, why is knob and tube dangerous? Because from an insurance company perspective, they do not like it. Why is it dangerous?
Well, it's dangerous because of 3 major reasons. One, it's very, very old and brittle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 2, it's been dealt with over all these years. It's been touched, tampered with. Okay. Number 3. Once it's brittle, the insulation falls off. Therefore, you've got a hot wire going through an attic, touching who knows what. And once that circuit's overloaded, you can potentially have a fire.
So I'm just going to kind of put it out there for just thinking about it. You have a house that's 100 years old, and the wiring is 100 years old, and I've always been scared of electricity because my dad taught me to be. And you think about, and you think about old 100-year-old electric line in a very old, dry house that could probably go up like a box of matches pretty fast.
Right. Well, you don't be afraid of it. You got to respect it.
Exactly.
Yes. There you go.
If you respect it, you respect it, you mitigate it, right?
Right, exactly.
It's like a gun. Don't be afraid of them and respect them.
Right.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So once you do a test on it, then we can pretty much tell you what it's going to cost to fix it. But people always ask me, the number one question they ask me is, how much is it going to cost? And I say, I don't know. There is no way to
Until
tell.
you get into the walls, there's no way of knowing. It's kind of like the mechanic that gives you a quote. We think it's going to be this much, but if we get involved and find more, it's obviously going to be more. Something that I'll put out that I learned as a real estate investor in some of these old buildings is that the wiring that you guys use now is date stamped. And so you always want to have a licensed electrician doing your wiring, obviously for safety. But if a building inspector goes into these buildings and notices date-stamped electrical wiring and you didn't have a permit on file, you get a code violation. And that was something, that was done prior to me. And then once the building inspector went in because, a tenant didn't pay the electric bill and National Grid took the meter off, it turned into a spiraling effect of things that I learned the hard way.
Yep. Exactly. Inspectors can tell by the date on the wire whether or not.
And that being my point is that you don't want to do it yourself. You don't want to cut corners. You actually want to pull a permit, and it makes your building more valuable by doing so.
Absolutely. So, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was going to say it's just going to cost you more in the long run if you don't.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely all around. So just going back to where we started, basically with a pre-home inspection, a pre-list inspection, whether it's a multifamily or a single family, what you want to do is you want to have an inspector like Mike Auger with Patriot Home Inspections go in, write up a whole list of stuff, and if there's any electrical issues that may be on that property, you want to call somebody like Mike O'Neill at 401-559-9801 to go and really truly diagnose the issue and give you a quote on how much it would cost. And I got to tell you, 9 out of 10 times, it is worth your money to handle these things. Because talk about a huge headache for a buyer. Talk about the ability of them not being able to I guess the disability of financing and or getting insurance on a property. Those are all hang-ups to getting something sold. And Mike, before we came on the radio, you were telling us about you now offer financing.
That's correct. Yes, because I'm noticing that it's a shame that people are buying house, like a young couple. They buy a house and then they have me go out and look at the knob and tubing, which we can only tell by doing the diagnostic check for $400. We can't tell unless we get down and dirty for 2 hours and look. But once we give them that price, they're like scratching their head saying, well, we didn't expect this. You know, the home inspection report did say there was some, but we didn't expect it to be this much. So it's no knock on the home inspection because it did tell you. There is no telling until you do a real good test on it. So once you know that how much it's going to cost, they can't do it. So I feel bad. So now we've gone to this other avenue of being more frugal and saying, hey, we can do it for you now. Yeah, here's a financing for 18 months with no interest.
That's
you
awesome.
pay minimum payments for 18 months. On a $5,000 loan, for instance, if you pay it off by the end of its term, you have paid $59 in fees.
That's nothing. So, we have a lot of realtors that listen to the show. First off, thank you very much. We also have a lot of investors. We have sellers. We have buyers. So I just want to slice this in two different ways and how I can see potential sellers use it and potential buyers use it, because this is phenomenal. I didn't even know that you had this program until today. So if you're a seller, okay, and if you want to get this stuff done, because again, buyers are going to come at you and smash you on price for $3 in credits for every $1 in repair. So let's just say if it costs you $10,000 to rewire your entire house, which is probably on the high end, not so much for a multi, but who knows. But anyways, $10,000. You can finance that, and then you can pay that off when you sell your house with your proceeds, and that $10,000 will equal $30,000. It's huge. That's big money. Now, as far as buyers, okay, if the seller is not going to do that, and that happens in some case if they don't have enough equity to cover that, that's okay. If you can get a very low interest financing and pay for this over 18 months, yeah, I know it really stinks, but you can get it done. You can get the house that you want, and you can have a peace of mind with the safety. So this is Mike O'Neill, B&K Electric. He's a local guy right out of Cranston, covers all of Rhode Island. He's the only electrician I send in for my clients to use. You can reach him at 401-559-9801. I'm going to say that number again, 401-559-9801, and you can also check them out on the roundtableradio.com. Go under the expert contributors section. Make sure you told them that you heard it here on the Roundtable. Mike, any last thoughts before we close out the segment?
I just want to say a couple things. First thing is, if you do have knob and tubing, don't go ahead and get quotes over the phone and having people come in looking with a flashlight for 5 minutes and give you a quote.
Yeah.
You have to have a test. Secondly, if you have a space heater or a little electrical, like a portable AC unit, and you're wondering why your lights are dimming, find a plug in the house that's not overloaded. Find the best plug in the house, and use that as your extension cord or area to plug in your little space heater. and you'll save on your electric bill as well because it won't be as high at the end of the month. And the other thing is generators. You can actually get a portable generator for the whole package set up, installed for about $2,000 to $2,500, and a standby generator. You could get one installed and purchased, all said and done, for anywhere from $4,500 and up.
Not so bad. That's well worth it.
And I would just add, to as a pre-sale inspection or assessment, there's a lost opportunity cost with not, living in denial and not wanting to know about things. If something was wrong, when would you want to know about it? I personally would today. And when you are working under a tight time frame of trying to sell one house to move into the one that you want, you have contingencies. You need as much information as possible. And having these inspections by people who are in the trade and know what they see and know how to resolve it. Education, knowledge is power, and it can save you a tremendous amount of money and be the difference between you successfully moving in and out of real estate in a time frame.
Absolutely. So Mike O'Neill, B&K Electric, thanks so much for being part of the Roundtable and the Real Estate Radio Network. 401-559-9801 B&K Electric. Mr. Mike O'Neill, thank you so much.